I still vividly remember the air that morning. The cold yet refreshing spring breeze typical of Colorado caressed my cheeks. With Whole Foods paper bags in both hands, on my way home from Pearl Street Mall, I stopped for a moment and looked up at the sky. At that time, I had no idea that this peaceful daily life would soon take a dark turn. "Good morning, Natalie." Turning around at the voice behind me, there stood my mother-in-law, Patricia. Dressed in her Brooks Brothers two-piece suit with her usual elegant smile, she looked every bit the former elementary school teacher she was. "Good morning, Patricia. Shopping today?" "Yes, I have lunch plans with Rachel. Just making a few stops before that." At that time, there was still warmth in my mother-in-law's expression. In the 5 years since my marriage to James, Patricia had treated me like her own daughter. She had been especially supportive during our 3 years of fertility treatments. You must be about 5 months along now. Your belly is starting to show." Patricia's gaze fell to my stomach. My anthropology maternity dress was indeed getting a bit tight. When we announced the long-awaited pregnancy, Patricia had cried tears of joy. "Yes, we might find out the gender at this week's checkup." "Oh, how wonderful. It's my first grandchild, after all. I can't wait." The affection in those words was still pure then. Those peaceful times before Rachel's infertility was discovered. Our new home is about a 10-minute walk from Patricia's house. It's a typical American colonial-style house, with a white picket fence surrounding the yard where James tends to the lawn on weekends. When we first got married, we chose this house considering its proximity to Patricia and Rachel. "Natalie, shall I help you with those bags?" "No, I'm fine. By the way, how's Rachel? I haven't seen her lately." "Well." For a moment, I thought I saw Patricia's expression cloud over. But she quickly returned to her usual smile. "She's doing well. Just busy with work, it seems." Looking back, maybe that was the first sign something was wrong. My husband and I used to have family dinners with Rachel once or twice a month. Working as a pharmaceutical sales representative, she always dressed in stylish suits, exuding the air of a capable career woman. On the surface, she seemed like a kind and caring sister-in-law. At least, that's what I thought at the time. "Well, I should go. Rachel's waiting." "Yes, enjoy your lunch." After parting with Patricia, on my way home, I gazed at the cherry blossoms blooming in the yard, drawn by the spring weather. I was filled with joy at the new life growing inside me and the thought of our expanding family. My husband James was extremely busy with a new project at the Denver headquarters, but he always came home on weekends, his eyes sparkling when we talked about the baby. I worked as a marketing consultant from home. Since learning about the pregnancy, I had been especially careful about my health while working. Patricia would come to check on me 2 or 3 times a week, cooking nutritious meals and giving advice about the upcoming birth. That evening, I received a message from Rachel. "Natalie, I met with Mom today. She was worried about you. But don't worry, I'm watching over you." At the time, I didn't understand the meaning hidden in those words. Who could have imagined it was a harbinger of the nightmare to come? Outside the window, the sun was setting in the direction of Chautauqua Park. It was a peaceful dusk that seemed to signal the end of spring. It was also the end of our peaceful days. As the season shifted from spring to early summer, the atmosphere in our family definitely changed. It started the day Rachel's infertility was discovered. The phone call from Patricia came on a Thursday afternoon when I was about to enter my 5th month of pregnancy. "Natalie, are you home today?" "Yes, I'm working from home. I need to talk to you." Her voice lacked its usual cheerfulness. An hour later, Patricia knocked on my door. Though wearing her Brooks Brothers suit, she somehow seemed disheveled. "Rachel found out she's infertile." Sitting on the living room sofa, Patricia delivered this news without touching her coffee. Steam gradually disappeared from the new mug she said she'd bought at McGuckin Hardware. But there might still be treatment options. "The doctor said it's practically impossible." Patricia's voice trembled. In that moment, something froze inside me. The emotion in my mother-in-law's eyes wasn't just sadness. There was something else swirling there, directed at my stomach. From that day on, the nature of Patricia's visits changed. The previous warm consideration disappeared, replaced by excessive interference. "Natalie, that meal doesn't have enough nutrition." "But the doctor said it's fine." What do doctors know? "This concerns my grandchild, so I'll be the one to decide." We started arguing more frequently about minor things. Her interference with my meals became particularly persistent. Patricia would make unexpected visits, check my meal contents, and sometimes even replace items in my refrigerator without permission. Meanwhile, Rachel's attitude also subtly changed. On the surface, she remained kind, even showing more consideration than before. But there was something unnatural about her kindness. "Natalie, Mom's been acting strange lately, hasn't she?" "I'm worried too." After a family dinner, Rachel pulled me aside in the kitchen to whisper this. Dressed in a one-piece, she wore a concerned expression. "Actually, Mom hasn't been sleeping well lately. She's been using sleeping pills that I got prescribed." Rachel works as a sales representative for a pharmaceutical company. Her extensive knowledge of medications had always been our pride. However, Patricia's changes gradually became apparent to others. There was an incident where she suddenly burst into tears at the Homeowners Association monthly meeting. At a neighborhood block party, rumors circulated that she had been muttering to herself, pointing at my stomach and saying, "That's a mistake. Natalie, I don't think you're fit to be a mother." One day, Patricia suddenly declared this. I was speechless at her words. My husband James was absorbed in his new project at the Denver headquarters. Even when he came home on weekends, he didn't seem to have the capacity to notice his mother's changes. "Don't worry about Mom. Rachel's looking after her." Saying this, James would retreat to his study. His computer screen displayed endless lines of code. Around that time, my prenatal checkup appointments started getting mysteriously cancelled. When I checked with the hospital, they said they'd received calls in my name. But I had no memory of making such calls. My anxiety grew day by day. My family lived far away, and I had no relatives to rely on in this town. Patricia's cryptic social media posts increased. Are there really people who can be true mothers? Who has the right to raise children? I didn't yet know that behind these posts, Rachel was secretly manipulating Patricia. As June began, the cherry blossoms in the yard had fallen, replaced by stronger sunlight. Patricia's behavior became increasingly erratic. She would visit suddenly in the middle of the night, try to check my work computer, and most disturbing was her obsessive calls to my husband. "James, you're my child. You can't let Natalie take you away." I accidentally overheard the content of Patricia's late-night call to my husband's cell phone. Then, a week before the decisive incident, Rachel unusually invited me to lunch. At a small cafe in Pearl Street Mall, she left me with mysterious words. "Natalie, everything will be over soon. But don't worry. I'm watching over you." Her eyes then were somehow vacant, yet simultaneously filled with determination. I could see the veins in her neck pulsing faintly at her blouse collar. The incident occurred on a Tuesday morning in June. The early summer heat that had persisted since the previous day had finally eased, and a fresh breeze was blowing from the direction of Chautauqua Park. That day, I was scheduled to work from home. I had a video conference with a client in the morning and was just starting preparations, turning on my PC. Beyond the white picket fence, I could see neighborhood children waiting for the school bus. An ordinary morning like any other. Who could have imagined it would become the most terrifying day of my life? When the clock struck 9:45, the doorbell suddenly rang. Through the peephole, I saw Patricia. Her Brooks Brothers suit was as usual, but something was different. Her hair was slightly disheveled, and she had dark circles under her eyes. "Good morning, Patricia. Natalie, do you have a moment?" Her voice lacked its usual teacher-like politeness. Rather, there was something urgent about it. "Actually, I have a meeting at 10. "It's fine, this won't take long." After inviting her into the living room, Patricia restlessly looked around the room. When her eyes fell on the newly installed baby crib, her expression twisted for a moment. "I heard from Rachel that you haven't bought a stroller yet." "No, I thought it might be a bit early. I found a lovely one. It's in my car, would you come take a look?" For a moment, I felt something off about this suggestion. But Patricia's expression was completely serious. "Well, I still have 10 minutes until the meeting." I stood up. Later, I would regret this decision countless times. Patricia's car was parked on the gentle slope in front of the house. A new Volvo XC90. Just last month, Rachel had recommended its purchase as Mom's birthday present, a luxury SUV. "It's in the back seat. You can open it from the driver's side." Patricia pointed to the back seat. Indeed, I could see something like a large box. The moment I opened the driver's door and sat down, I heard all the doors lock simultaneously. "Patricia." When I turned around, my mother-in-law's expression had completely changed. A cold look I'd never seen before. "This ends now." With that scream, the car started moving. By the time I realized the parking brake had been released, it was already too late. The car began rolling down the gentle slope, gradually picking up speed. "I can't trust my grandchild to someone like you." Patricia's voice rang in my ears. In panic, I desperately tried to open the door, but the child lock was engaged. "Help! Somebody!" My screams were absorbed into the sealed car. In the edge of my vision, I could see the children waiting for the school bus, watching with surprised expressions. And then, a large tree loomed before me. At the moment of impact, I reflexively turned the steering wheel to the left. However, inertia mercilessly slammed the car into the tree. A violent impact. The sound of airbags deploying. Then, a moment of darkness. When I came to, an ambulance siren was approaching. Someone was shouting loudly. Neighbors had gathered around the car. And Patricia. She was sitting outside the car, hugging her knees, crying and muttering something. "Rachel, I did it just like you promised." The police arrived moments later. 2 uniformed officers approached Patricia. Another officer rushed to the car to check on my condition. "Are you all right? The ambulance will be here soon." I was still in a state of confusion. The baby, my hand unconsciously moved to my abdomen. Intense anxiety and fear washed over me. At that moment, my phone rang. A message from Rachel. "Natalie, are you okay? I'm worried. I'm coming right away." I didn't yet know the truth lurking behind those words. The message had been sent 5 minutes before the accident. As if she had predicted this incident. The ambulance transported me to Boulder Community Health. CT scan, ultrasound, blood tests. The doctors carefully checked the condition of both me and the fetus. "It's miraculous." I couldn't stop crying at the doctor's words. The baby was safe. The airbag and the fortunate angle of impact had prevented the worst outcome. From the hospital room window, I could see the Flatirons Mountains in the distance. The sunlight remained bright, and the town continued its usual activities. However, my world had completely changed. Patricia was arrested at the scene. During questioning, she appeared confused, repeatedly saying only "Rachel. Rachel told me to." Then, 3 hours after the incident, my husband James rushed to the hospital room. An emergency return from Denver. "Mom, how could Mom do such a thing?" His voice was trembling. His suit was disheveled, and his usually well-groomed hair was now carelessly pushed back. But why? The answer to that why would soon become clear. Evidence found on Patricia's smartphone. Hidden messages with Rachel. And traces of systematic drug use. Everything had been part of Rachel's meticulous plan. That evening, police began searching Patricia's home. And from behind the kitchen cabinet, decisive evidence was found. The sleeping pills that Rachel had gotten prescribed. And Patricia's diary. On its last page, written in shaky handwriting. "Am I doing the right thing? But as Rachel says, maybe this is the only way to protect our family." Outside, the evening sky was turning red. A new morning would surely come. But what kind of morning would it be for our family? The next morning, when I woke up in my room at Boulder Community Health, a light rain was falling outside. The Flatirons Mountains were covered in gray clouds, making yesterday's clear weather seem like a lie. When the nurse came for morning temperature checks, a police investigator accompanied her. Detective Sarah Martin from the Boulder Police Department, a veteran in her late 50s whose gaze reflected years of experience. "Mrs. Green, may I speak with you?" I nodded. As the heart rate monitor beeped steadily, Detective Martin carefully began her questions. When did you first notice changes in Patricia's behavior? I told her everything. Patricia's changes after Rachel's infertility was discovered. The sudden visits. The excessive interference. And Rachel's seemingly kind attitude. Actually, we found important evidence. Detective Martin took out her tablet. The screen showed footage from the security camera at Patricia's house. 2 days before the incident, late at night. A scene of Rachel visiting Patricia. That's not all. Next shown were message records recovered from Patricia's smartphone. Mom, Natalie is trying to destroy our family. That child will take everything from us. But Rachel. Trust me. I have a plan. The messages dated from 1 month before the incident. Rachel had been systematically fueling Patricia's anxiety. Around that time, my husband James learned another fact at the police station. Rachel's infertility diagnosis was forged. It was a skillfully created fake. And the truth was even more shocking. Patricia's blood test results came back. Traces of a specific psychotropic drug were detected. It matched the components of a new drug under development at Rachel's company. She had been administering experimental drugs to Patricia. According to pharmaceutical company records, Rachel Green had been taking research samples without authorization. Detective Martin's explanation continued. The drug gradually reduced the user's judgment and made them more susceptible to suggestions from specific individuals. Silence fell over the hospital room again. Then, there was a sound from the hallway. Is everything okay? I was worried. Rachel appeared, wearing her usual theory suit. Perfect makeup. A kind expression. But her eyes were somehow vacant. Rachel Green. Detective Martin stood up. You're under arrest. What happened in that moment felt like slow motion. Rachel's expression crumbled, she became distraught and tried to flee. However, multiple officers were already waiting in the hallway. No. I was only trying to protect our family. Rachel's scream echoed through the hospital corridor. During interrogation, all the truth came to light. Rachel had been planning since the moment my pregnancy was confirmed. The fake infertility. Drugging Patricia. And the attempted murder disguised as an accident. Everything was a perfect plan born from twisted obsession. We conducted a psychiatric evaluation of Rachel. A few days later, Detective Martin's report when visiting the hospital room. She shows signs of serious personality disorder. Particularly notable are her abnormal desire to control and obsession with family. As July arrived, the situation gradually moved toward resolution. Patricia began receiving psychiatric care. As she was freed from the drug's influence and her memories gradually returned, she became tormented by deep regret and guilt. I can't ask for forgiveness. When she visited, Patricia whispered this. The dignified teacher's presence was gone, replaced now by just a tired old woman. Meanwhile, Rachel was indicted. Attempted murder conspiracy, illegal drug use, document forgery. The prosecution sought 15 years imprisonment. Local media swarmed the Boulder County courthouse where the trial was held. It was widely reported as a shocking crime by elite pharmaceutical company employee. Around that time, our family slowly began seeking a new form. James declined the project in Denver and switched to working from home. Taking morning walks together on Pearl Street Mall became our daily routine. When the baby is born, I want Mom to meet them. One day, my husband murmured this. I silently nodded. Patricia continued with weekly counseling, slowly moving toward recovery. They said it would still take time for the drug's effects to completely disappear. Then one day in October, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Emily. When they heard that name, everyone in the hospital room cried. It was also the name of Patricia's mother. Outside the window, cherry blossoms were beginning to bloom again. New life sprouting with spring. It was also a symbol of our family's rebirth. A year after the incident, we moved to a new house. Still in Boulder, but this time in a quiet residential area on the mountainside. The window offers a panoramic view of Chautauqua Park. Emily is growing up healthy. Patricia comes for supervised visits once a month. Though she was tense at first, each time she sees Emily smile, she seems to gradually regain some of her former warmth. We return all letters from Rachel unopened. The wounds haven't completely healed yet. However, we've begun moving forward. This experience has taught us many things. The importance of family bonds. The difficulty and necessity of forgiveness. And above all, that love comes in many forms. Sometimes, while watching Emily play in the yard, I wonder, will there come a day when I tell her this story? And when that time comes, what should I say? The answer hasn't been found yet. But one thing is certain. The story of our new family is only just beginning. Outside the window, the Colorado sky stretches blue as always.